A 7-4 non-runner no bet with us at the moment is just an absolute gift.
It's a phrase you hear a lot, and a lot of the time I think it's absolute bull, to be honest, when you hear people say he's going to be better in a better race.
Are you going to win it?
We have a horse with a sporting chance.
I think it'd be brilliant. I'd be roaring my head off for her and for Gordon and for everyone. I think it'd be savage.
Hello everyone and welcome along to the Hippodrome Casino, Leicester Square, the heart of London. Just a few days out from the Cheltenham Festival of 2025. All 4 days put under the microscope by a top team here as part of Betway's Cheltenham preview. Working my way right to left, starting off with legendary Irish broadcaster Gary O'Brien. That's the way to build him up to begin with. Nearest to me on my right, Katie Walsh, who's got the unique distinction of, unlike anyone else here, probably in the room, but certainly on the panel, of having ridden winners at Cheltenham. Her husband, trainer, and might have a winner this year as well. Ross O'Sullivan to my left. He can train a winner, be it flat or jumps or anywhere in between around the globe. And furthest away, Chad Yeomans from Betway. That's right. We're going to go straight into Tuesday, rightly so, the 120, the Raw that accompanies the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Novices Hurdle, which is obviously run under such a sad postscript from the news we learnt of a couple of weeks ago, and Michael O'Sullivan riding the winner of this very race back on Marine Nationale 2 years ago, so very much in our thoughts. And at the top of the market, Ross, I'll begin with you, Copec des Bourdes, who has been there for a little while. Willie Mullins looking for an 8th win in the race. Good thing?
Yeah, he's a horse that, look, he's going to start favourite. He's going to be, he's been a model of consistency throughout the year. I suppose, looking at the race, he's a horse that, you have to be worried to keep the lid on him. He's a horse that keep his mind right. I suppose he's going to be favoured. A horse that of Gordon's Romeo Coolio would be more of my kind of cup of tea. A horse that's been there, done that. A horse that was, been there last year at the bumper. He's a horse that, to me, might be a bit more value. There's a couple of questions to be asked about Willie's horse, and I just think that, for me, Gordon's horse might be a little bit more value.
Chad?
I mean, he's the best horse in the race by a country mile, and the only thing that can get him beat is himself. I thought going out of the prelims at Leopardstown, I thought he'd get beat here. And I think at Cheltenham it might just rev him up slightly. A big price, a couple of other Willies who have only run once, Kiss, Will, and I'm going to get my laptop here for pronunciation. Peninsula is a massive price. They've both only been out once and won once. But the style of the way they've done it, the way they've quickened off the back of the last, tells me they're better than average. It's just, are they going to beat the favourite? And the question is, if he's head straight and Paul looks happy, it's a very weak Supreme. It's a really weak Supreme, and he's the one we want to get beat because he's been really well back with us. He'll be our biggest loser on day one, so there'll be a huge roar in the Betway trading room floor if we get beat. But I can't see it happening at this point because the rest are pretty duff, to be brutally honest with you. Well,
Gary O'Brien, Willie Mullins is doing something potentially a bit Aidan O'Brien in the Derby. Could run 6 or 7. We're assuming there's a pretty apparent pecking order, though.
I think so. Well, certainly with the top dog, Nick. Yeah, Copec des Bourdes looks just a bit out of the ordinary. I was working with Katie's brother today, one in Leopardstown, and he described him as a monster, and he doesn't dish out praise like that too lightly, I don't think. It's a very, very defensive sort of price. I thought immediately after Leopardstown, actually, he was quite a decent price at 7-4, but he's gone the other way now, shade of odds on. I'd imagine that'll be a little bit bigger in the day. I actually would say there's a bit more depth to it, maybe. Looking down the list, I think there's plenty of horses in this who'll go on and make a name for themselves. 2 I like at bigger prices. William Money, who was a very impressive winner at Punchestown recently. He was, compared to every other horse that ran at Punchestown that day, he just came through the line so hard, and obviously Michael O'Sullivan won the Supreme in those colours a couple of years ago, so there would be a bit of symmetry there as well. And a horse called Irancy, who I see is about a 16-1 shot. Willie Mullins trains him as well. He won a maiden hurdle back in November at Punchestown, and I thought back then this is proper Cheltenham material. Obviously had a setback. We didn't see him again after that, but it looks as though he's going to make the gig, and the fact that they're going to bring him over, I think he must be pleasing them at home. So look out for a good run from him. But I think of Copec des Bourdes, I mean, the progression he made from his first run over hurdles at Christmas to that Dublin Racing Festival, if he makes even half that jump from run 2 to 3 over obstacles, he wins, simple as.
Katie, he's presumably going to be quite a big field. With what Ross said about the horse keeping a lid on things, with the fever pitch that accompanies race 1 in particular, would that worry you?
Yeah, I think it would. Like, I think he's too short. Like, but obviously, if he bolts up and he wins, he'll say, sure, he was always a certainty. But, you know, he kicked every hurdle out of the ground with Patrick back at Christmas time, and literally every hurdle out of the ground. And he came back with Paul, and he absolutely sluiced up Paul. He looked unbelievable. He looked like an absolute beast. But Paul, even when he pulled up, said, I couldn't ride one side of him. You know what I mean? He's just so good, but yet he's only half kind of in control of him. You know, so with that, along with his temperament, if he holds it all together, absolutely he wins. But if he doesn't hold it all together, I think it's wide open. Like, Paul's not going to ride anything else. Of course he's going to ride him, and he has to ride him. But if he does flip his lid, Tuesday at Cheltenham, big atmosphere, big crowd, you know, he might. And I think it's something, if you were going there on Tuesday, if you haven't backed him already, like, he could lose it in the pre-parade ring or the parade ring before he goes out. He could be drifted by the time he gets to the start. You know, I think this is just one of those races that you're nearly better off waiting. I think he's too short of what he is. And I think you might know your answer even before he goes down to the start, whether he can contain it or not. I do think that Henry de Bromhead always has a great Cheltenham. He always does, you know, and I know his horses have been out of form, up and down and in and out, but for some reason they do come back into form around Cheltenham time. So I think if you were going to back something at this time, I think maybe work ahead. You know, he obviously beat William Money as well before, and William Money has shortened up again, you know, so I think, you know, this could be... I think it's open off the back of Willie's horse, but I think you might be better off to wait and see how he handles it all.
Okay, split opinion, no doubt on the talent of Kopek de Boer, but can he keep it all together? Right, race 2 is the Arkle, which has lost some lustre from a few weeks ago when we learned that Sergino doesn't run. Gary, simply, does this just pave the way for Marsborough? Is this a one-horse race, or are you looking a little further down?
Look, it might sound a bit disrespectful to say it's a one-horse race. Nick Loda Sud's a smashing horse in his own right, but you look a little bit further down the list and there's nothing else in there, I think, has anywhere near the raw ability of Magsborough. It'd be a huge disappointment, I think, if he doesn't win. As long as he puts in a reasonably efficient round of jumping. He did take the odd chance at Leopardstown, but I don't know, did he ever actually look like falling? He seemed to get himself out of trouble anytime he looked maybe in a spot of bother. Look, 7-4 on is a skinny price. About a horse who's only had a couple of runs over fences, but Leopardstown's a good jumping test. He managed to jump around there okay, despite maybe the odd little scare on the way. That should stand him in good stead. I definitely wouldn't be opposing him.
Gents, yes, no?
It's very hard to oppose him.
Okay.
Absolutely, I think he's almost as certainty as you can get the week. But at 4-7, you've got to look at how you bet on the market. Now, the way I certainly play, whether people want to back short things or not, but if I like Touch Me Not, it's 16s or 14s each way. Now, if you're asking me to try and pick a 4-7 winner or a 4-1 to get placed, and I've got 2 chances of getting placed second or third, to me that's a better bet than backing a 4-7 shot. And he was good at Leopardstown. He was second to Magsborough. I think Magsborough was really good, and Gary made a point about him not looking like he was going to fall. He's got that. He's quite nimble on his feet. He jumps and can get away from a fence. He's the best horse in the race, and he did a piece of work at the back end of last season before the triumph with Salvatore Mundi, who they thought was their best, and he blew them away. And from that point forward, they thought he was outstanding, and he's clearly proven it. And look, if he stands up, he wins. But for me, the bet of the race is Touch Me Not.
We hope we get enough for 3 places. It's not likely.
Anti-post rule should get 3 places if you're backing as we speak. But look, the race will cut up, of course. But Touch Me Not to finish second is the bet of the race for me.
Anything to add on Magsborough, who I think for a lot of people is going to be a banker material for day one?
Yeah, I think he's more of a banker than the horse in the first.
Okay. There we go. Simple as. Magsborough. No Sergino, so sadly. So, Magsborough, it's over to you to make it 2 wins at the Cheltenham Festival. Right. We will touch on handicaps and things like that a little bit later on, based on any other business. But going on into the Grade 1 races and the 320 in this new, or the revised running order that Cheltenham have put together this year, that's the Mares Hurdle, which, Ross, I guess we can't really go into too much depth in this race until you actually find out who goes where. So is there anything in your mind that you think is an absolute certainty to be running in the race, which is in that regard, a little bit of a step up, perhaps, because Lossiemouth, etc. We know that Brighter Days Ahead goes to the champion. There are still things up in the air.
Yeah, it looks like we say Brighter Days Ahead is obviously going for the champion. I think Lossiemount, seen the quote from Willie that he looks like she's going there as well. So he's going to leave Jada Grucey his favourite. She was very good the last day. A filly I like in it is Jeremy Scott's filly. She beat Brighter Days Ahead last year. She's a little bit underneath the radar. She won the last day beating Bird End Road. And you know, she's a decent filly. Jeremy Scott had a winner the other day. His horses are in form. I think she's going to be a bit of value. And like, she's course and distance winner. She'd be something that I'd be going back for, sticking to the trends and going back for. Like I said, she came into herself last year at this time of the year, and she could come back and could be the one for me.
Anybody else got a particular fancy in this?
Julie Flower.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was very good with Rachel last day in Leopardstown. Henry again. I think when Henry's horses were out of form, this still won. So I think there's more to come. Won in France before, won in Auteuil over 3 miles, won over Leopardstown 2.5. I just think it a bit of value. Can't be left out anyway.
I love the way that as well with Henry de Bromhead. They're not always, or very often, they're not the ones you expect, are they? Pull a rabbit out of the hat with a Captain Guinness or put the kettle on.
Chase winner,
They just seem to raise their game when it comes to March, which is the way you'd want it.
He does have an unbelievable strike rate in Cheltenham. Like, remarkable, and there was one year there, I know, like, Rachel was firing in winners left, right and centre, but, like, did he not win, like, Champion Chase Gold Cup and the Champion Hurdle all in 1 year? And it kind of got
2 in the Gold Cup as well, didn't they?
Yeah, and it kind of got overshadowed a little bit because of the whole cartwheel, I suppose, of Rachel and the winners. But like, what Henry did really was remarkable, and horses seem to fire there. And I just think that if he should definitely be watched for sure.
Yeah, and he won the Grand National that same year, just for good measure. I guess, Gary, look, a decade or so ago, it was all about Quevega. She'd turn up, she'd win. We didn't need to talk about the race. Have you got a potential angle in?
I think I do, Nick. Yeah, Joya's the big handicap winner at Newbury last time. I think Nikki Henderson has said she probably is going to be supplemented. They probably will wait to get a handle on whether Lossiemouth is going to run or not. But I think if you see Joya supplemented, that will suggest that Lossiemouth will run in the Champion Hurdle. To me, Joya's has got a lot of upside still. She hacked up in what's usually one of the more competitive handicap hurdles of the season. She's had a run over 2.5 at Cheltenham, finished second that day. The winner kind of controlled the race there, Wadu. I think there's an awful lot more to come from her. And the race could break up a bit. The 5-day entries are tomorrow, and I would imagine the field is going to shrink a fair bit. So Joya's, if she's thrown into the mix, will be the one for me.
I guess we're just waiting on confirmations, as Gary said.
I don't think it matters who gets confirmed at this point. I think Jade de Grugy is the biggest certainty almost of the week.
You're glad I came to you there, aren't you?
I wish you'd come to me first.
I was thinking about moving on.
Saved everyone else, but Lossiemouth comes off the back of a fall. She's good. She's really, really smart, and I do hope they go to the champion because this could be her last chance at that level. And if Constitution Hill has another best season, we'll talk about that shortly. Brighter Days Ahead got beat at Cheltenham. This is Lossiemouth's year for a champion, but Jade de Grugy was the best horse in the race last year. Paul came on the inside when everyone else went to the outside. She's bumped 2 out. She came out last 2 weeks ago. She won up, sluiced up, and it was just a piece of work. I think she is a 7-4 non-runner no bet with us at the moment is just an absolute gift.
Right, we move on to the 4 o'clock, which is the Champion Hurdle, and Constitution Hill will be market leader. Brighter Days Ahead, the fact that they're there sporting, which is the right choice, that's brilliant. Hopefully Lossiemouth. State Man's the reigning champ. I don't think he's going to win it this year. Look, Gary, I'm going to come to you first because we've got a horse at the top who has suffered and has been he's been off the track and missed his chance at making it 2 in a row last year. Everything we've seen this year, he's even won a public gallop, which for the first time, he doesn't tend to win them very often. Constitution Hill is a horse of the absolute extraterrestrial ability. Is he going to go and win this and make it a second win in the race, emulating Hurricane Fly?
I think everything boils down to how much of that ability he retains, Nick. For me, the jury's out on his 2 runs this season. The last one, I don't think you could really draw any conclusions from the Cheltenham race, but I just thought the Kempton race, he had to be ridden out to beat Lossiemouth only by a few lengths, and that was after she never looked in her comfort zone at any point in the race. coming away from that race, I just thought, yeah, he's won, but he's going to be vulnerable going forward. Now, look, maybe Nicky Henderson, obviously being the master trainer he's bringing him on run to run. I'm sure that will be the idea, but I can only go from what I see with my eyes. And my eyes are telling me that Kempton run could leave him vulnerable to brighter days ahead. So I'm going to go with the mare. I think it's great that she is running. The last few weeks, I think we've all known she is going to run. Gordon was obviously very, very keen, but it was just a case of whether the boss man would give the green light, and happily he has. So there's got to be no hiding place here. King of Kingsfield will make it a real test. Brighter days ahead, I'd imagine, will shovel on the coal just like she did at Leopardstown from maybe 3 out. And then it'll be a case of whether Constitution Hill can come and get her. But I just thought brighter days ahead, even allowing for State Man blowing out at Christmas, like that was such a huge step forward from what she did in the Morgiana Punchestown. And maybe there might be even more in the locker. So I'm going to take her to bring down Constitution Hill.
Katie, if they run the Leopardstown race, or as close as, near as damn it, with King of Kingsfield, as Gary was saying, leading brighter days ahead, and then you've got Constitution Hill, who seems to travel at whatever pace is thrown his way. How fascinating could this boil down?
Oh, well, listen, I think it's the race of the week. And I think it's hugely exciting that she's going to run in it. And I think, you know, they won't even look behind. I mean, the only way to get Constitution Hill beat is by outstaying them, is getting them off the bridle. And that's what they'll have to do. They know that their mare stays. She goes a relentless gallop. She's an absolute beast of a mare to look at. And like Sam Ewing didn't even look behind him the last day. He didn't even look behind him once to see where Paul Townend was. It was just, I said the two of them were in the zone. They were told what to do. Gallop, go. When he stops, you pick it up and you go again. And that's what they will do again. It'll be relentless. And listen, maybe Nico de Boinville will come down the hill hacking behind him. But by God, you will have to stay, because they will go a mother and a father of a gallop. It's the only way to get him beat is to outstay him, 100%. And Jack Kennedy won't even look behind him. It'll just be a 2-horse race as far as he's concerned. Him, the lead horse, and then hopefully it'll be him. And I think it will be. I think it'd be brilliant. I'd be roaring my head off for her and for Gordon and for everyone. I think it'd be savage.
I'll tell you what, they get it right, these two, don't they? What about over here? If it comes that way, Ross, and just as Katie has said, if the race that we hope for materialises, going to 2 out, who wins?
Like I said, it would be brilliant for Gordon. I would lovely to see it. The mare was very good the last day, but I am still a Constitution Hill fan. I think he is the champ. Obviously, he's the horse that he was before.
State Man's the champ, Ross. Don't forget.
Well, yeah, State Man is the champ, but we haven't seen State Man this year, and I would be shocked if we see State Man in reproducing any of what we saw last year. I think Constitution Hill. I think it'll work out better for him. I think he'll get a lead. I think it'll suit him. I think, I said Kingston, or the horse of King of Kingsfield will make the running. The mare will sit second. I think Nick will sit third. And I think, to me, I still think he's the best.
What was that mistake at the last? And by the way, it was a pleasant curveball that they ran Constitution Hill on trials day, but that mistake at the last, what do you guys put that down to?
Well, he can do that. That's a fine line of a champion hurdler. We've seen a lot of good champion hurdlers do that. Istebrak could do it. Hurricane Fly could do it. They're on borderline of, there's fine margins, and that's what you need. And that's what everyone who rides those horses says, is that fine line of just, it's danger. Like, it really is rapid speed, and they just need to give it that inch. But there is a fine line, if the mare puts him under pressure, that he could catch the top of one. That there's a chance he might do that. Now, I hope he doesn't. I hope Everton stands up 100%. I wouldn't like to see that happen, obviously. But those fine margins have to be taken for a true champion, I think.
Chad, champion hurdle, the picture as it is now.
Picture as it is now is people want to back Constitution Hill. I think obviously the last 24 hours there's money for brighter days ahead. Now people know she's going there, but the money for over the next week will be all for Constitution Hill. The fact he won a racecourse gallop against his stablemates who no one knows what weight they were carrying means absolutely zero. And that he beat, no disrespect to Harry Durham and Brentford Hope, but I reckon I could put a saddle on Ross and me and him wouldn't be too far away from beating Brentford Hope. And
the dream team.
The dream team, yeah. We've done it before, but not on camera.
And
it's anything I should know about.
Definitely not, Katie.
I'm saying nothing else on that one. So for me, I think he's got a little bit to prove. He hasn't had a perfect season. But he is just, when he's at his best, he is the best horse I've seen in my lifetime.
Okay, right. That good?
Oh, come on, no way.
I'm 32.
Best you've seen in your lifetime?
I think so. Like the way he travels to his race, the way he won the Supreme, he is just a beast. He just does it all so
He is
easy.
the only one young enough to not wear socks on this panel, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
Feel free to zoom
Come
in
on,
on
Chad,
my
we'll go with you. Just a name. Who wins the champion hurdle?
Constitution Hill.
Constitution Hill.
Better days ahead. 100%. Brighter days ahead.
Brighter days ahead, yeah.
Brighter.
Better days ahead.
Brighter and better.
He could win as well.
Brighter
yeah, he
and
could win as
better.
well. We'll get on to that.
Shame he's not entered.
2 and 2. There we go.
There we go.
All right.
What's the casting vote?
Constitution Hill.
Yeah, Nick, we need
Constitution
we need
Hill.
your-
Why?
Why?
Because I think he is he's a generational talent of a racehorse. What I think is that the vibes as well from Seven Barrows have been such that he is back to where he was. And remember that horse that 3 years ago, I know it was 3 years ago, marmalised John Bond by what, 20 odd lengths? I don't think there's any horse out there that could do something like that I've seen currently in training. And I'm going to take the view that he is just about as good as he was. And if he's not quite as good as he was, I still think he wins anyway. So that's why.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Right. Constitution Hill then, 3 and 2 for brighter days ahead. But the very fact, guys, I'm sure you'll all agree, the very fact that we've got enough sporting decision to be able to say that these two can run against each other is fantastic, and hopefully all goes well going up to the day. Right, we're going to wrap up Tuesday with a look at the 4-year-old handicap, the Boodles, whatever it's called now. Do apologise to all the sponsors. Are you going to win it?
We have a horse with a sporting chance. He's been very consistent all year. He won on his last start. He took the same route as a horse that we had called Eagles Reign that finished second in the race last year. Won a handicap on his last start in Punchestown. He's had 5 weeks to freshen up, and yeah, fingers crossed he's in great nick. I hope at 25-1 he's an each way chance. He's pretty versatile ground wise. Handicapper hasn't been easy on him, as he hasn't been easy in any of the Irish horses. We got £6. We got £5 for winning that day in Punchestown, and we got £6 for coming over. So that is in itself a little bit of a task. But I'm happy with the horse, and I can only speak about him. And I'm hoping that he runs a big race.
According to what I'm looking at, Nick, it's the Hullgarton and Novum Wines juvenile handicap hurdle. So there could be a nice case of wine involved as well, Raz.
It could have been Boodles once, but no, wine will do. There are other races on the day. We've got the Ultima, a very popular handicap chase, which the Irish, generally speaking, don't have a very good record in whatsoever, one of the rare races. You've also got the race formerly known as the 4 Mile of the National Hunt Chase, which you won, Katie, back on Poker de Savola. Views on the other races on the day? Katie, I'll start with you.
I like Captain Cody in the last. I think he's consistent, and I think he's a good price at 9-1.
Gary.
I think in the National Hunt Chase, Nick, Resplendent Grey would be of interest. He's a horse who I've taken a bit of time to warm to. His jumping can be a bit sticky at times, but I think the longer distance might be a help to him on that score. Obviously, it's a handicap this year. It was a novice race last year, but you see with a horse like Corbett's Cross, who wouldn't be the most fluent jumper, he was in his comfort zone all the way over the longer trip last year. So look out for a good run from him in the what did I call it? The Hullgarton and Novum. I've forgotten it already. 2 horses who have met before, Total Look and Beyond Your Dreams, I thought might be the pick of the Irish in that, though. Obviously, I hope Slurricane runs well for Ross. And the Ultima, no real view on that one, to be honest, other than it'll be a home win.
Yeah, more than likely. When was the last Irish winner?
Was it Dundera?
It was, wasn't it? Ruby from the Clouds, wasn't it? Yeah. Chad, wrap up Tuesday for us.
Tuesday, a few big outside bets on. In the Ultima, I think Henry's Friend for Ben Paulin will run well. It's a shame Affordale Fury's not running, because I did think he would win the race, but he's now running, I think maybe, as this video goes out, he runs on Sunday, and potentially the Galway Plate in the summer is a race for him. 2 others to look out for in the 4 miler, not 4 miler. Rock My Way is a massive, massive price. He stays all day. I think he's been trained for the race, as has No Time to Wait. He was 4th in the bumper for Gordon a couple of years ago before the Andy and Gemma Brown dispersal sale. He's now with John McConnell, and he wants he wants 12 miles, ideally. That's not to say slow, if John McConnell and the owners are watching. But I think he's been trained for the race. Now it's handicap, it would suit him better. So I'd have that, and I'm a huge Slurricane fan.
Last thing to do, Gary, from you through Chad, who is the nap on day one? We'll start with yourself.
I'll go Joya. I'm not going to go for the odds-on shots. Joya is in the Mares if she runs.
Katie.
I'm going to go for Marlborough.
Okay. Nice. Any advance on an 8 to 15 shot?
I do
Now I'm
quite like-
especially glad I didn't go for an
Well,
odds-on
you're
shot.
asking me for a nap.
You're right. There are 3 other days to get naps for as well, right?
Well, Nap would be Constitution Hill, and there is one horse actually in the last.
Why didn't you abuse him?
And there is one horse on the last, a horse of Gavin Cromwell's. Now is the hour in the 3 mile 6 race. He's a Grade 2 winner over hurdles. He's trained by a trainer that can't do no wrong at the minute. He can't stop at winners. I actually think Gavin Cromwell's a trainer that could be followed for the week
I would
in a lot of
agree,
the handicaps.
definitely.
I think if you were to just go through his runners, he could actually have 3 or 4 winners. I think I was looking down through his runners last night, and so many horses in handicaps and different races that you can't rule out that'll be value bets. This horse is definitely a sneaky one in there. I don't know what price is Chad, is he?
7-2 favourite. He's no sneaky.
7-2, is he?
He's been well found, and that's
Yeah.
the reason. I think he's the
Okay.
most likely winner of his graded form. And
Okay.
when he came to Haydock last year, he won a novice hurdle by 12 lengths. This has clearly been the plan. But
Yeah.
they've been found in the market.
He had a very good run the last day, kind of having a jump around Navan. I thought he finished 4th, and I think he's the horse that has been laid out for this.
Yours?
Oh, Jay DeGruge. I've already told everyone. Jay DeGruge wins. That's it.
Okay, that was a look at Tuesday, day one of the Cheltenham Festival. We will start by Wednesday having a look on the opening race, which is the Turners, and this could be an absolute cracker. We've got Final Demand, we've got the New Lion. Chad, I'll begin with you, who now races in the green and gold of JP McManus, who could have a good Tuesday, could have a good every day, really, couldn't he, at the Cheltenham Festival?
Yeah, he has a good Cheltenham Festival every year, doesn't he? And the fact that
Looks like
Darren
it could be
Yates-
particularly fruitful, though, doesn't it, with some of the names that he's got?
Yeah. I mean, but you could say that every year. He does have a phenomenal stable of horses, and his investment into the industry is insanely appreciated by everyone involved. Because without it, the sport would be even, it would be more shtick than it possibly could be. But he has a good chance with the New Lion. But I was at Dublin with Ross when Final Demand won, and I was so taken aback. And I generally don't like horses who just win once and then go and win and then go to Cheltenham. I think he won a little bit more experience, but the way he did it, to me, was just a sign of a proper horse. It just came easy. Everything, the way he travelled, the way he jumped, the way he quickened, the way he stayed. And actually, if you go through the race, half of them will go to the Supreme, half of them will go to the Albert Bartlett, it will cut up. The biggest thing is the pace in the race. If it's a slow pace on good ground, it might catch him out, but I think he's that good. I don't think it really matters. And I think the New Lions had a hard season in the early part of the season, as the English trainers generally tend to do.
Yeah, like I said, Chad was Final Demand was very, very impressive. But again, he's going to be very short. And I suppose for people looking for value in the race, there is a horse in it, third in the Cheltenham Bumper 2 years ago for Willie. Got injured then. A horse called James's Gate. Sorry, James's Gate. Horse trained by a very shrewd trainer, Martin Brazel, who kind of can line up his horses for Cheltenham. Has a very good strike rate the last couple of years. This horse goes for this race. I spoke to Ricky Doyle this morning, who'll be very much involved in the yard. They were very, very happy with this horse. I think he's going to be a bit of value. I think he's a horse that has been kind of improving all year. I think he's a little bit underneath the radar, and like I said, this is the target for the race. So at value, even though I'm a big Final Demand fan, this horse just might be an each way value in the race.
I completely, and same connections when it was City Island, didn't they?
Yes, City Island, exactly. And
be the sponsors
the race,
exactly.
yeah, and
Ryan's who's sponsored by Ballymoor.
He's in his new incarnation, James's Gate, and he's looked pretty good. So he's a lightly raced 8-year-old. I can completely see the angle with that. If it boiled down, Katie, to the New Lion or Final Demand, are you a fan of one or the other, or would you look elsewhere?
I'm a Final Demand fan. I just like the way he conducts himself as well and the way he behaves himself. He's got a great attitude, great mind, and it just has to stand to him. And I know obviously it's very hard to get away from the favourites, but sometimes these races it's very hard to find something that's going to beat them. And I know the New Lion has been very impressive for Dan Skelton all year, but I thought Final Demand, the manner in which he did it at Leopardstown was very taken. But I'm with Ross. James's Gate, definitely for a bit of value for sure.
Yeah, it's good value, I think. The Challow Hurdle, Gary, has been a horrible race going into the Cheltenham Festival. It's the last Grade 1 of the year, but you look at some of the horses who've won it, and then gone to the Cheltenham Festival, and it doesn't make for pleasant reading. Would that put you off with the New Lion?
Not especially, to be honest, Nick. I'd rather kind of trust my eyes and take the performance on its merits. He was just in a different league to the horses he beat that day. I don't think it would have mattered whether it was the Challow Hurdle at Newbury or another novice hurdle at Cheltenham, maybe around the same time of the year. To me, he's the horse they all have to beat. I would just marginally prefer him to Final Demand, but I think the each way play in the race is a horse who hasn't even been mentioned yet by anyone else, and that kind of sums him up a bit. He's rather unheralded, despite the fact he's won a Grade 1. He's won his last 4 races, and that's the Yellow Clay, trained by Gordon Elliott. He's obviously not as flamboyant as the top two. He's more, you'd probably call him blue collar in comparison to the two of those. But he keeps winning. He's won 4 in a row. He got out from behind the 8 ball to win 2 starts back when he had no right to Navan. The horse in front got a brilliant ride that day, and he managed to peg him back. And then he won the Grade 1, the Lawlers of Naas, which Gordon Elliott obviously used with Envoy Alain before he won this race as a novice hurdler as well. And he actually beat Wingmen, his stablemate, by roughly the same distance. Final Demand beat Wingmen at Leopardstown. So I think there's a rock-solid each-way case to be made for him. I'm going to have a few good each-way in him, and I think you'll get a good run for your money come up.
And he has done the work at the maiden hurdle, Grade 3, Grade 2, Grade 1, worked his way up.
Yeah,
and
he's a real pro, isn't he? Like, he does everything the right way, and I think he'll get a no-nonsense ride. He'll be near the front. Shouldn't be any excuses for him, and I'd expect him to be right in the mix.
Okay. That's a look at the first Grade 1 on the day, which very often throws up absolute champions. A lot of champion hurdle horses as well. Think of Isterbrak, Hardy, Eustace and the like. Right, race 2 on Wednesday is the second of the Grade 1s. It's the Brown Advisory. Ballyburn was the winner of the first race on the Wednesday last year. Chad Yeomans, is he going to win the second race this year?
Absolutely not. At this stage in his career, I don't think he needs this trip, because this test is a proper test. The Brown Advisory, whatever it's called now, it's a proper status race. And you need a horse who goes and stays and jumps, and that for me is Lecky Watson, who's got class. He's run over 2.5, and he beat last year's Supreme winner, so he's got pace. He ran over 2 mile 3.5 last time, beat a horse of JP's, forget the name, and Farron Glory was third by 8 lengths. He's a rock solid each way bet.
Casey, you were impressed by Ballyburn at the Dublin Racing Festival?
Yeah, I was very impressed with him, because I think that he's a good jumper, and I also think Paul won with loads in hand, to be honest with you. I thought Crow Park passed him, go down to the last. Paul hadn't really gone for his fella. He must have given him some feel to let Sam actually pass him and still not go for him. Do you know what I mean? That must be some feel you're getting off the horse to know. Like, sometimes when you go down to the last, you feel like, if I don't wing this, I'm not going to win. But for him not to let Sam pass him, not really go for him, still didn't really matter what way he jumped it, and he wins. I don't even think he really went for him. Do you know? And I just thought it was good, and I think they're just keeping him under wraps a little bit, and so that he'll see out the trip as well. And I'm a big Ballyburn fan, and I thought he absolutely sluiced up the last day, to be honest.
I've backed Dancing City for that. I think he's very solid, and we've talked about, well, off air, the record he got into, the run he got into last year in the spring, third in the Albert Bartlett, went on to Grade 1 success at Aintree and Punchestown. I think he's solid, but I don't think he's got quite necessarily the sex appeal of a Ballyburn. Do you have a particular fancy in this?
Well, like I said, as Katie says, Ballyburn is very good, and he's going to be very short, and Dancing City will just be behind him. Looking for value in the race, possibly a horse that won the Albert Bartlett last year, Stellar Story. If he's jumping, he got a good school in Navan the last day and came home very well, and it was mainly just to get his jumping right. He's going to be ridden patiently. I presume Jack will ride the Noel Moran horse, won't he?
Better Days Ahead.
Better Days Ahead. Yeah. So Danny Gilligan, who rode this horse the last day, will probably ride Stellar Story. He'll be dropped in. He'll be a good each way price. He'll be in the teens. I think he'll be ridden to be placed, and if it came his way, if something happened in front and there was a bit of drama, he could be there to pick up the pieces. So I'm going on last year, like I said, last year's winner, he was a winner of the Albert last year, stays well, ridden patiently, ridden to be placed. I think at big prices, he could be a good each way bet in the race.
Gary, on the topic of the Brown Advisory.
Ballyburn to me is definitely the most talented horse in the race, Nick, but there hasn't been the wow factor about his performances over fences like there was over hurdles last season. So, look, I could leave him alone at the sort of price he is now. If there is something in there that's going to blow the race apart, it will be him, but I'd be happy enough to watch him. Bit like the Yellow Clay in the first race. I think Better Days Ahead is a solid enough each way option here. The Juice maybe has gone out of the price. He was twice what he is now, maybe only 10 days ago. 7-1 I see is the top price here in front of me now. But I like the way he's taken the fences. He won at the festival last year, won the Martin Pipe, the final race, and beat Slade Steele, who was a Supreme Novice Hurdle winner in his first start over fences this season. And I thought he maybe was good value for the win over Stellar Story last time. Actually, we obviously have the race IQ data now that ordinarily when you see it after a race, it kind of backs up what your eyes told you. But that was one race where I just couldn't believe it. Actually said Stellar Story jumped better than Better Days Ahead. And I don't know, I'd say they must have switched the microchips before the race or something like that, or some sort of gremlins got in somewhere. To me, Better Days Ahead's a much better jumper than Stellar Story, and he's a real kind of solid horse. So I think, a bit like the Yellow Clay, I think he'll run a big race here.
Right, the big race on Wednesday is race 5, 4 o'clock for the Queen Mother Champion Chase, and it is the 2 mile showpiece of the day. It is the prestige race. Katie, John Bon, he has won at Cheltenham before, but it's been talked of that his defeats have come in the Supreme and the Arkle. I personally don't see that as any problem. He is the now horse. Is it as simple as John Bon turns up? And assuming he jumps the jumps as he should do and is in the form that he's been for the last year or so, does he simply win?
Yeah, I think he does. I think I sure listen, I don't think he gets the recognition that he probably deserves. And there is like horses like that go through their careers for whatever reason, and still people don't talk about them as stars. But I mean, he's a model of consistency.
And actually, for a horse that cost that much, he's paid for and doubled what he actually
rare
cost.
is that? Like,
Yeah, they don't do that, do they? Very often.
No, but yeah. No, they don't.
No, look, he's Duvan's brother, £500,000,
Yeah.
and it looks well. Well, it is well bought in this instance.
Yeah, but I think we're probably yeah, he does look well bought, of course he does, but I don't think we don't really get into that. Most people who have horses in training don't really think, am I going to win back by prize money? It's a bonus if that does happen. Lucky for these guys, it did. But anyway, we're getting away from the point. He's a model of consistency. I would love to see him win, but I think he's very short. I think he's very short. I don't know why when I'm very confident about the likes of Ballyburn, who's very short, and other horses like that. I do think that Marine National's a big price, to be honest, 6-1. Obviously won there 2 years ago, ridden the same kind of way. I just think he's a big price at 6-1, to be honest.
Well, in fairness, from what you said, in the last, half a decade or so, you think of the likes of Chac and Poursois, Defi de Soy, El Fabiolo last year. It's been a graveyard for the odds-on shots. So John Bon is looking to arrest the slump.
Yeah, it has, and this race can often fall asunder, which we've seen. Sonless, who's been a bit of a revelation, will probably make the running. Bowl along. I'm a bit like Katie. Hard to look past the favourite, John Bon, with Marine Nationale being placed. It's not much depth in the race. No. I think John Bon will win, and I think Marine Nationale will be placed. I know it's not very original, but that's going through this. It's hard to try and it's a bit like the stairs. You're going to try and look at something to beat him, and it's hard when you go through it to find. You can see horses that might be placed, but it's hard to find something to beat him, bar a hiccup.
It was last year winner Captain Gibbs 50-1 to win it this year. Any views on the positive or the negative, John Bon, somewhere in between? What do you think?
I think he's the most likely winner. I'll be back in Marine National each way. I think he's been coming forward over fences. I mean, unless God's backed Energamine over anti-post and he opens up the heavens and it becomes heavy, I can't see that winning. And you go through the rest of the card and it's pretty poor, the rest of the race, really. Gaelic Warrior won a very substandard Arkle. Ile Francais runs somewhere else. Banbridge runs in the Gold Cup. El Fabiolo got beat at the weekend, and you can keep going down and you can keep finding holes. I think there'll only be a handful of runners in this, and it'll be very tough to oppose. But the prices, Marine Nationale for me has got a bit of value.
And so does Joseph's horse. Solness. Each way. 9-1 as well.
He has had some tough races. The Tingle Creek, they were tough races.
Yeah, they're tough,
Christmas.
but he does it. Jumps and goes. Like, I mean, he wears his heart in his sleeve, and he's going to be ridden the same way. It's going to be a true test over 2 miles, the way it should be, the way a good 2 mile chase should be. But you wouldn't want to let him off either. Like, they couldn't keep up with him the last day. They couldn't lie up with him. So, like, John Bon is going to have to be on his tail because he's not going to come back. He didn't come back at Leopardstown. Like, you can't just let him off. But yet again, if you can't go with him, you can't go with him. Whereas Marine National won't have to take part. Like, I think if Marine National isn't ridden to actually win, he could win. I think if he's actually ridden to ride him to be third and pick up the pieces. John Bon can't be ridden like that. John Bon.
So how would you ride John Bon? If you were given the ride today, how would you ride John
Well,
Bon?
sure, he's favourite. You have to.
How would you go forward?
You'd have to sit second. You'd have to sit second. I think that Joseph's horse will make it because that's what he does, and he goes a real good gallop. Like, if you're Nico de Boinville, you can't do it on an odds-on shot, walk out fourth or fifth and pick up the pieces when you're that kind of price. Like, he'll get abused by everybody. You would, and that's whereas with Marine National, like, he's 6-1. It's a bonus if he wins, if he's third or second. But if you're whoever rides Marine National, so is Sean Flanagan, is it?
Yeah, Flanagan,
like if Sean will be told, like, he's not really expected to win. John Bond's expected to win. So if you're Nico de Boinville, you're going, right, where's the pace? The pace is that horse, which is Danny or JJ, whoever. You can't let him off. You have to sit second. He goes a mother and a father of a gallop thinking he might come back, he mightn't come back. He hasn't come back twice around Leopardstown. They couldn't go with him. You have to try and go with them or look like you're making an effort to go with them. And if you can't go with them, then you can't go with him. And if you're good enough, you win. Whereas if Marine National lets that all happen, let the two lads, let the favourite be ridden like a favourite because he has to be because everyone expects him. But there's no one going to be looking at Sean Flanagan.
At what point does Nico have to look and go, Solness is 4 lengths clear or 6 clear?
Well, he'll have to jump off on his tail. He'll have to jump off.
Follow him the whole way.
I think. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I think he'll have to. I think he'll have to jump off on his tail, and if he can sit in his tail or a length behind him and go, I can pick you up anywhere. Lovely. That's a dream scenario. But like, if he goes down to the first, the next thing he goes, I'm 4 lengths. I actually can't go with you. I can't go with you. You can't force a horse to be able to go faster than what he's able to go. Now, obviously, John Bon hopefully won't have that problem. But like, it's just a different scenarios you're looking at. Whereas Marine National and Sean Flanagan be like, here, Sean, best of luck. Sure.
It makes a stronger case for Marine National, right?
Well, it does. Of course it does. Because if you're letting the two lads at it, you might be, and if they take each other on, then you might be able to pick them up, and then you're riding to be placed, right to be second, and you might win.
There you go.
Gary, Queen Mother.
At the prices now, it's obviously pretty much a coin flip, John Bon versus the field. And if you offer me my choice, I think I'd rather have the field than John Bon. If Ile Francais ran in here, that would be a no-brainer to me, but it looks as though he might run in the Ryanair instead. I still, though, think there's enough opposition in there to maybe suggest that he might have more on his plate than the current price says he does. The one worry I'd have is there seems to be very little confidence behind the Mullins horses, Energumene and Gaelic Warrior. Just looking at the betting here, they can't give him away at the moment, so it doesn't look good as far as he's concerned. But I think Solness, obviously, as the guys have spoken about, he's going to go forward and try and put it up to John Bon. Matata is a horse who tends to push forward as well. Yep. So there's no doubt John Bon is not going to have it all his own way here. And I'm not saying he's one-dimensional or anything like that. But as I say, I just don't think the race is going to necessarily be put on a plate for him in maybe the way that some others would view this. So it's not a particularly strong view. He's a cracking horse and his record speaks for itself. But I think I'd just on balance be against him here.
Okay, right. The final race of the day is the Weatherby's Champion Bumper. Of course, the flat race of the meeting and a race that Willie Mullins has won a hatful of times. 2018 relegates under the lady to my right, Katie Walsh, winning it. Is there, I think the easiest way to look at this is there one horse in particular, because we haven't got riding arrangements and so on and so forth. Katie, or as we go around the panel, is there one you are particularly looking forward to for this year's race?
I think it's wide open, but I think the Champion Bumper is always so competitive, and I think Patrick gets the pick, obviously, and he's gotten it right and he's gotten it wrong, and that often happens. And I think when you really go down through it, you can make a case for a lot of horses. But I do think that, how do you pronounce it? Cocabana? I thought Copacabana was really impressive, and I haven't been really blown away by bumper horses all year. But I do think now, I know he's shortened up again, but I do think when I saw him, I went, Jesus, he looks like a real good bumper horse. But like it's wide open and it's a messy kind of a race. It's not a race, if I was a punter, I would ever really have a big strong fancy in, because anything can kind of happen in it. There's a lot of hustle and bustle. Sometimes they go a gallop, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're into a sprint. Horses run with the choke out, they get too free. It's messy. It is a messy race.
Lads, anything for the bumper? You don't have to.
Sure, it's wide open, as Katie says, a line that I agree with my wife. I've rehearsed it many a time. But I do agree with my wife. It is a wide open. It's more of a bookies race than any. And like I said, Patrick gets first choice of Willies, and it's not often the case. It happens. The outsider Willies can come out. There is a filly there. She was very good at the DRF. She's a point winner of that won for Nikki Stokes, so she'll stay well. She won in Punchestown, won her maiden bumper Punchestown, and she won a listed mare's bumper in Dublin Racing Festival on the Sunday, and she won it by 7 or 8 lengths. I had a filly that was second. It's a good consistent filly, and she was 8 lengths in front of the third. She was very, very impressive. She'll be a good price, and again, it's just trying to have an opinion in the race. I think she's called Bambino Flyer, is it? Bambino Fever, and she's a filly that I liked. Just the way she did it, she couldn't have been any more impressive in Leopardstown.
Any advance?
I don't have a particularly strong view, Nick, to be honest. Probably no bad thing, actually, because when I have had a strong view in this race in the last couple of years, it hasn't tended to end very well. Game of Inches was the one who probably impressed me most visually when he won at Punchestown, but the Mullins camp, a lot of them seem to be leaning more towards Copacabana, so I suppose you'd have to respect that, but I'd be quite happy just to watch this one.
What's the bumper horse that Patrick won on for Gordon this year?
No chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best. That's my idea of a winner.
Yeah. Well, he
Fourth in the market at the moment, third in.
Yeah.
he got off Gordon's and said that we didn't have anything at home to match that at the minute. Early on in the year. Now, that's not to say they don't, but still.
Gordon's put him away, and
Yeah. So
for me, he's the best bumper horse I've seen with my eyes.
Okay.
Visually as impaired I am.
Right, before we get naps on Wednesday, there are other races. There is the Coral Cup. There is the Johnny Henderson Grand Annual, 2 huge punting handicaps. There's the cross country if you want to. Anything on Wednesday that we've not mentioned, I'm sure, Chad?
Yeah, there's just a horse in the Coral Cup called Eagle Fang. It's a massive, massive price. It'll be scrolling right the way down to the bottom. Trained by Bill Durkin. I remember this horse being a bit of a talking horse last year, and actually went off to 10-1 for the Boodles. Ran okay, finished 12th to 22 mid-division. This year's been pitched at the best level, finished 2 lengths behind Aspire Tower, 7 lengths behind Home by the Leaves, second favourite for the Stayers, and 9 lengths in a Grade 1 at Ascot behind Crambo. But if you watch the race back, 3 out as they come around the back straight, he's still on the bridle, he travels well with them. He's got a mark of 141, and I just think he's snuck under the radar in terms of a well-handicapped horse, and you'll get some extra place terms. And this horse, we're talking 40, 50, 66 to 1, is a massive price. He's been running without getting slaughtered in graded races this year. We can all talk about the ones towards the head of the market, but for a bigger price, I'd implore you to go and have a little bit of a study and a little couple of quid each way on Eagle Fang.
Right, Gary, Katie, Ross.
In the cross country, Vanillier will be the outsider of Gavin Cromwell's too. Stumptown will be favoured, but has been kindly treated by the handicapper and was a very good winner in the cross country, beating Cocoa Beach early on in the year. If he got into rhythm, he could just be a bit of value too.
Rebus Festival winner. Anything else on Wednesday, guys?
Not especially, Nick. Obviously, Kopek to me is the big buzz horse on everyone's lips this year. He's in the Coral Cup. I mean, if he runs in that, it kind of changes things, doesn't it? He's got a few options. Comfort Zone is one I thought would run well in that race, but the Grand Annual. Stumptown I do like for the cross country, but I don't really like the price.
Okay. Katie?
I'm with Ross in the cross country race. I think 9-1 Gavin Cromwell was very good in Punchestown the last day. Absolutely sluiced up. Well treated by the handicapper.
Right. All that's left to do on Wednesday is get the nap of the team. Chad?
I'll go with Final Demand. No, actually, we'll go Lecky Watson. We're going to go bigger. Lecky Watson.
Loving it, isn't he? Like he is. He just, you give him a microphone and he's just let loose. Right, come on.
That's what you do for a living, Nicholas.
Very well. Ross,
I will go with Final Demand. Yeah, I think he will take a lot of beating.
Katie,
Ballyburn.
Ballyburn, and
I'll go Stumptown.
there we go. Nice. Different races as well. Right, that was a look at Wednesday, day 2 of the Cheltenham Festival. So day 3 at the Cheltenham Festival. Thursday, it's, halfway through, and it all changes because we move on from the old course to the new course, a real accent on stamina, and we look at race 4 as the first race. Gary O'Brien, I want to get your thoughts on the Ryanair Chase, which I don't mind saying, and I'm sure plenty of people have the opinion that for many, it might be a bit of an afterthought, and perhaps for the horses that are that little bit too slow for the Queen Mother and don't stay the Gold Cup trip. But I sort of feel like this year there might be a couple of horses in here who are really targeted at this, and it could well be a very good race.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought one of those was going to be Spillan's Tower, Nick, but I get the vibe he's an unlikely runner now. I think he might wait for Aintree instead. He would have been the one I would have gravitated towards. Factifile has been the horse everyone's been talking about in the run-up to this race. I think the assumption generally is that he's going to run here instead of the Gold Cup. Personally, I think that's a shame. I'd love to see him in the Gold Cup. I know Gallup and Deschamps beaten him a couple of times around Leopardstown, but different track, different day, and who knows, maybe different tactics. Things potentially could be different for all that Gallup and Deschamps looks nigh on unbeatable. He's a worthy favourite for this, but Ile Francais is going to make life very, very difficult for him, I'd imagine. Protectorat is no mug. And then looking down through some of them at bigger prices, Jungle Boogie's a horse that would interest me for this. Ran very well in the Gold Cup last year. Maybe didn't quite get home that day. He's a horse who obviously has had a lot of problems over the years, been difficult to train, but I get the feeling Connections are getting more and more of a clear run with him now. And I'd say this has been his target for quite some time. So he might just maybe be the one. I think he'll probably be ridden to pick up some of the pieces if Ile Francais takes them along at a good gallop from the top.
Well, that's exactly it. And Katie, I think we were talking about this earlier, that Ile Francais, who could have had different options, it looks like this is the one, the Ryanair. And as thrill watches go, if he gets out into a rhythm and does what he did at Kempton, translating that to Cheltenham, this could be quite an adrenaline ride to watch.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And he's a super jumper as well. I think bar the last in the King George, he probably would have won, maybe, to be honest with you, this year. And I think the way he jumps and gallops, it's there's question mark over maybe he has a tendency to maybe have a bleed. Maybe the hill might find that out. But I think there's loads of strength and depth in it. I'm with Gary as well. There's been a lot of talk for Jungle Boogie as well. He was very free in the Gold Cup last year. And, as we were talking, he's a horse at a price that is going to be told you're going to have to get him to switch off. There's no one really, you can chance your arm and ride him to run well and see what happens, and he just might be a horse at a big price to pick up the pieces. I'm with Gary and everything that he said. I'd love to see Factifile in the Gold Cup, to be honest. But I think it's a very interesting race that is wide open. The only horse I can't have is Gael Laguardia at 92.
That's fair. He seems to be a bit in the wilderness, and it'll be interesting to see exactly which target it is for him. Right, lads on the far side, you've got Protectorat, last year's winner, Envoy Len, who won it a couple of years ago and indeed was second in it last year. They're sort of solid, but are we looking to something a little less exposed towards the top of the market?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think if Factifile runs, he wins. I think he's the best horse in the race by a country mile. I've had a couple of quid each way on a massive price. It was back to triple figure price called Blue Lord. He went off 11-2 for a champion chase a couple of years back. He's not quite that class. He's not quite grade 1 class, and now he's going up in distance. There's just something in there for me. He was highly thought of as a juvenile, as a novice hurdler and as a novice chaser, and it hasn't happened. And this race, when you look through, it's not the strongest Ryan. It's not the strongest grade 1. It just wouldn't surprise me if he was 66-1 on the day and he crept into a place.
So I'm going to just revisit the best horse in the race by a country mile. Factifile.
You can pick whatever country you want. He's miles clear.
Yeah, but obviously more than France. Honestly, Factifile would thump Ile Francais.
I think the way Ile Francais runs, you can do that at Kempton. Cheltenham, the undulations, I don't think you'll get away with it, and I think he'll knacker himself out halfway through.
I think you'll have to be a little bit worried about Ile Francais as well. He's been reported to have a bleed in the past. Flat track will suit him well, but this Cheltenham up the hill, he just would have your worries. I would actually have thought he would have been more my fancy for the Queen Mother of the 2 mile race rather than stretching the mountain trip. I'd be a little bit, at the price he is, I'd be a little bit worried. Last year's winner is rock solid at a bit of value. He's been freshened up. He's very impressive on his last run. Protectorat. He, to me, even though I'm agreeing with Factophile is the up and coming and looks the one to beat, Protectorat with a bit more value is the horse for me.
Okay, so bets on the day for the Ryanair. Chad, starting with you.
Well, I backed Blue Lord each way, but if Factophile does run and I can get anything odds against it, I'll put him in a bet or two.
And I'll go for last year's winner, Protectorat.
Okay, Protectorat and
I think Jungle Boogie for me, Nick.
Jungle Boogie and
Factophile, I do think Factophile will win, but I think the Jungle Boogie is a massive price.
okay, he's an 11-year-old without the profile of being one. That's the Ryanair. The 4 o'clock is the Stayers Hurdle. 3 miles, grade 1 at the top of the market. Tiahupu, who won it last year and was a different class. You're going to have Home by the Lee there. They're now 10-year-old. Lucky Place, interesting for Nicky Henderson. And there are 1 or 2 others potentially with pretensions of putting it up to Tiahupu. But Gary, we'll begin with you. Is that what they are playing for? It is very often a race and a series that can be dominated by one horse. Is Tiahupu going to continue the dominance?
Do you know
He's
what?
only an 8-year-old.
For a long time, I thought he was pretty much bomb-proof for this race, Nick. But the closer it gets, I'm just getting a little bit more lukewarm about him. He obviously got beat on his only run so far this season. Didn't really tell us a lot. He got done for toe by Lossiemouth in the Hatton's Grace Hurdle. I was a little bit surprised that maybe he didn't run again after that. I know that system worked well last year. He won the Stayers after being off the track for a long time. But Home by the Lee, who fair enough has had a few goes in this race and has come up short every time. He looks an improved model this season. Lucky Place is a new kid on the block. You could have the Wall Park Rocky's Diamond in there. And the horse who I think would really frighten me if I was going to take a short price about Tiahupu is Mystical Power. Now, he's done nothing this season. And he's tackling a trip that he's not guaranteed to stay. But he is trained by Willie Mullins and was a very good novice hurdler last season as well. So, like I say, I don't know, is it a sixth sense or something like that? But the closer this race gets, and maybe the fact that there isn't much rain in the forecast as well, I'm just inclined maybe to let Tiahupu run rather than get stuck into him this time around.
Interesting. Langadan, anyone? Ross.
Yeah, I can understand where Gary's coming from. I suppose we just haven't seen enough of Tiahupu, but it's very hard when you go through it. You're looking for a horse to be placed in it. He's been freshened up, followed the same path as last year. Ground would be the only worry a little bit with him. He does like an ease in it. A dry week this week. Don't know what we're going into next week, but you just wouldn't want it to dry out too much. Gordon's horse, the Wall Park, would have had summer form, so he handles a bit of nice ground. I'm finding it hard. Home by Lee, will he face into that hill? I'm not convinced. I think it gets tough up there for him. I find it hard for something to beat Tiahupu, and you're looking for value on something to be placed. It's hard. I can't look past Tiahupu anyway.
Okay.
Chad might have something at big prices maybe.
Yeah, I've always got a big price or two. I mean, obviously, if you want the rain for Tiahupu, it'd be the best horse in the race and he'll win it. But a big price, Sander Clegane, Paul Nolan, 66-1. I'd keep him on side. He's got form tied in with Home by the Lee and lots of others, and he shouldn't be the price he is. He's a massive price at 66.
Okay. Anyone for Tiahupu? Katie.
Yeah, I'm for him. I just think you haven't seen enough of him, and that's what happens with horses like this. But I think it's very hard to expose him. I do think he could do it a drop of rain, but I do think he's the best horse in the race. I think Home by the Lee is a total chancer. Like, I just think you just don't know what's going to happen. But I do think he's on a bit of an upward curve. I do think he's not as roguey as he's definitely more honest and consistent this season than last season.
Home by the Lee.
Yeah.
But 6 lengths to turn around from last year's running. Too
Yeah,
much of
but
an ask?
last year, I do think he's definitely more... I actually think Cheltenham doesn't suit him because he has to pass the runway. You pass where you walk out. I think that's his problem as well. I think he sees the hill and wants to go right and wants to go in the gate. I do. I genuinely do.
Have you had horses do that when you've ridden?
Well, yeah, there's definitely
I know
horses.
different courses, but in
there's
particular
definitely
Cheltenham.
horses that know what gate they've come out of, and when they are coming up the straight, that they think that maybe that's enough. And think there's definitely horses that, and I think that's why it doesn't happen for him here. But I do think that he's definitely on upward curve this season. And I do think Wall Parker Gordon's has been unexposed. I think this could have been a bit of a long-term plan all along. I think the ground stays quick. I think maybe it's at that a big enough price, he could be okay.
So if you like Home by the Lake 6-1, surely Bob Ollinger is value at 25-1 because he's beaten him 3 and 6
He
lengths.
probably is. I just think that Home by the Lee, I think, I'm probably just talking about it more so as a horse. I think he's very inconsistent, but I think his previous seasons have been very inconsistent, as in the way he runs. He runs in snatches. Like sometimes you think he's going to pull up, and the next thing he takes off, and he wins. Do you know? I think Bob Ollinger is a model of consistency. You know, and I think he's probably more honest and more forthcoming than Home by the Lee. Now, don't get me wrong, Home by the Lee is obviously, I'd love to own him. You know what I mean? Like, he has been a great racehorse, but he's got loads of character to him, and maybe I don't think Cheltenham is his place. Maybe Aintree might be his place, Home by the Lee, to be honest with you, with the way the track is designed. I think actually when Home by the Lee turns for home, sees the hill, knows the gate he came out, I don't know. I just think there's a question mark over.
And just while look, he was second to Galopin Des Champs once upon a time in a Martin Pipe. He is talked of, much to the malign of a lot of people, I think, Langer Down, the dual Coral Cup winner. Anything positive to say, or are we going to just avoid him altogether?
Avoid.
Avoid, right. You're not even looking at me, neither of you. So,
Well, he's never won over 3 miles either, is he?
No.
So there is that box that hasn't been ticked with him as well. Obviously, we all know he's a spring horse at this stage, but
That's a very polite way of putting it, Gary.
yeah, well, sure, that's the party line, isn't it? So, look, I don't see it myself, but then again, I didn't necessarily see it last year.
Right, but I didn't. The fact that we've got the 2 Grade 1s that day, it means we can we'll brush up the majority of the card. There's the new look, welcome back, novices limited handicap chase, the mares novices hurdle. What else we got? The Potemps final. We got the Kim Muir. We've got another race in there, the plates. There's a lot to be looking at on Thursday. So where do we go first?
Some big prices here. In the mare's novice, Air of Entitlement is a massive price for Henry de Bromhead. Hasn't been seen since winning on Boxing Day. But I'm led to believe she's quite smart. In the, what used to be called the Cloche Brothers, the novice handicap chase, De Capo for Gordon. I don't know if you've got any insight into that Irish trio, but I think...
Capo, he schooled after racing yesterday, Chad. I didn't hear how it went now. He went round with Stellar Story. They put in a clear round anyway, that's all I know.
So he jumped round and he's safe and well as we speak. Yeah. But I think he's definitely better than what he's shown so far. And in the Potemps, I'm a huge fan of a horse called Feet of a Dancer for Paul Nolan. She is really smart. She was entered in the mare's Grade 1. I think she could actually have run in that and ran respectably. But she, to me, is my idea of a Potemps winner. She's qualified. Paul Nolan doesn't bring them over just for a laugh or an owner's day out. When he brings them over, you've got to take note of them. And if you look at her profile, she's got the one that, for me, is just a stonking bet.
It's a good record in Cheltenham.
Oh, it's a sensational record.
Ross?
I was rooting down through the handicaps. There was a horse, actually, myself and Katie went up and looked at as a pointer. We nearly had him bought, of Warren Ewing's. He sold him to Jamie Snowden afterwards, a horse called Gitmaker. He's in the King Muir. Two good runs. Second in Cheltenham last year to Gavin Cromwell's horse. Then went on and was third in the Scottish National. Probably likes a bit of nice ground. Haven't seen much of him this year. Was late getting started after Christmas. He's a horse. It'll be interesting to see who rides him. It's the King Muir. It's an amateur race. You know, I'd like to see a good booking. But for me, he's a horse I've always followed because we've had the interest from the start. And a horse that I'd love to have. So I think he's going to be an interesting one. That's Gitmaker in the King Muir, the amateur race.
Other sides here. We'll go Katie. Of the 5 races that we've not delved into on the day, aside from the Grade 1s, what do you like?
I like Joseph's horse in the second, Newburying.
Yep.
I just think this might have been a plan for a while. And what are you laughing at?
I hadn't heard this one before. So
I can't tell you everything.
So whose plan was it?
Joseph's. Yeah, I think he ran well in Punchestown back in November. He was third, and I think he looked back at his Leopardstown run. I just thought he ran okay in Leopardstown, even though the where he finished wouldn't suggest it. And I think this has been a good plan.
Gary?
I'd be very fond of that mare that Chad was talking about there, Feet of a Dancer for the Potemps, but I've got to be honest, I thought the horse that won that Potemps qualifier at Leopardstown, Win Some Lose Some, one with a fair bit up his sleeve that day, and I think he'll confirm the form at Feet of a Dancer. I think he's got a great chance. He was basically put on ice for the final, I think, ever since then. And I gather his preparation has gone pretty well, so he'll do me there. 6.5, worthy favourite for the Mares Novice Hurdle. If Galileo Dane was pointed at this, I think she could be a big threat. I don't think she'll win the Triumph Hurdle. That's the long and the short of it. Whereas I think she'd have a real chance of winning this if she could beat 6.5. I think that might be good enough. There's a lot of confidence behind 6.5. And the Kim Muir, look, it's not exactly an original angle, but I think whatever Derek O'Connor rides is going to be of major interest. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be Sa Majeste, who's favourite at the moment. I thought maybe one of the John Joe Neal horses, Johnny Hoover, has thing. If he was jocked up on one of those, that's the way I'd play the last.
So, all that's left to do on Thursday is get the team's naps. I will start once again with you, Chad, over on that far side. It's gonna be
Feet of a Dancer.
Feet of a Dancer.
Answer the Potemps.
Okay, Ross?
It's not a nap like, but it's not very original. It's Tifu.
Fine? It's absolutely fine. There you go. Tia Hoopu to win it again. Katie?
Tiapu.
Tia Hoopu?
I'm going to go win some, lose some in the Potemps.
Lovely, lovely. Right. Friday is the Cheltenham Gold Cup itself. It is the blue ribbon, the big one of the week. But we will start off by having a look at the opening race, which is the Triumph Hurdle, the Grade 1 for the 4-year-olds. And look, there is a fascinating British element at the very top of the market, which is refreshing. What's rare is wonderful. Lulamba. It looks as though Nico de Boinville's riding this horse, who's had a lot of buzz about him. That Ascot success looked every inch formful on the day, and it's proved. But, Gary, East India Dock is the sort of blueprint of what you'd want from a 4-year-old hurdler, isn't it? He's got everything.
Yeah, he's a possible horse to knock, isn't he, Nick? He's done everything that's been asked of him so far. He's proven himself at the track as well. Nothing not to like about him. I was amazed. Like, Lulamba was all hype initially, wasn't it? Even before he ever ran. And then when he won, he went past East India Dock at the top. I think East India Dock is the one that deserves to be favourite. Fair enough, Lulamba might be another Sergino, but just that one run at Ascot on the back of that, I thought it was a big overreaction. Maybe I'm looking at this through the green tinted specs, but I think Hello Neighbour's got a big shout here as well. He's unbeaten in 4 starts, 2 flat races, 2 hurdles. He's rated in the high 90s on the flat after those 2 runs. And it's a phrase you hear a lot, and a lot of the time I think it's absolute bull, to be honest, when you hear people say he's going to be better in a better race. But this is one horse who I think this will actually apply to. I thought he had that Leopardstown race last time, the Grade 1, the grade race at the DRF, won a long way from home. Maybe idled a little bit late on, but I think he'll be able to be ridden to pounce late in the Triumph Hurdle with that long run in the home straight. And he's the one, I think, at the prices I'd be with.
Ross, if you could pluck one of these out of their respective yard prior to the race and have them as your own, who would it be?
I watched East India Dock. He's very good, and he also has, he's, as Gary says, he's course form. Gavin's horse is a classy horse. He's rated in the 90s in the flat. He won over a mile and 2. And as I keep saying, he's a trainer that I think is not going to leave Cheltenham without 3 or 4 winners this year. I think this horse wasn't completely convincing in Leopardstown, but maybe in a better race, like Gary said. East India Dock is going to make the running. I think this horse will sit behind the leaders in a fast run race. I would like to take. I'd like to be training Hello Neighbour anyway.
Yeah, it does look to me as though I quite like Gibbs Island at a price, but they've all got form to find. And Lulamba might just go and do that. There might be others in there, but they've all got it to find with what East India Dock has done so far.
Yeah, its speed figure last time out was unbelievable. Recording a 1:44 on the Racing Post as a top speed figure. That's miles clear. That's definitely better than lots of other Triumph winners have done. I'm not a huge fan of Triumph, the juvenile hurdlers as it is, so I wouldn't have a bet in the race, but you can't crab the top one in the market.
Any final thoughts on this one?
For me, no, I don't think he can. I think the lads have said everything. I mean, the top horse looks the horse that everyone wants to be on. He's been so impressive all year, but I think Hello Neighbour is going to be his biggest threat.
Okay. We can have a look at another of the Grade 1s on the day, and it is a slightly rejigged order, so it makes it the 4th race this year. It's the Albert Bartlett, which is the 3-mile novices hurdle, and we are waiting, Chad, on this picture to become that little bit clearer as to who goes there, and it's been whittled down from the Wednesday runners, perhaps. But of those that we are expecting to line up in the Albert Bartlett, does anything stand out?
I think Jasmine Duval got a favourite for Willie, won the bumper last year. jumped like a snooker table first time up this year. Just really needed to learn, but I've come forward at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I thought it was a good enough performance. And to me, going up in trip to 3 miles just is going to suit him. He's going to improve, and at the prices he is at the moment, thinking that Yellow Clay will go to one race and Final Demand will go to another as well is. I think he'll start a favourite. So
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. He does it.
Current price, I think he represents a little bit of value.
12 hurdles that need to be negotiated, but bit by bit, hopefully he will get there. Gary O'Brien, Albert Bartlett, thoughts?
Yeah, I like 2 against the field here, Nick. I'd be a big fan of the big Westerner, mare of Henry de Bromheads, who won a maiden hurdle at Punchestown, beat the Geldings that day, and then she won a Grade 2 novice hurdle over this sort of distance at Limerick at Christmas, just shy of 3 miles, I think it was. She was then basically put away to go for this, and the de Bromhead horses obviously were off form for most of January, so I don't think that was any bad thing the way it's turned out. So she's got a lot going for her. And the other one I like is a horse got a completely different profile. He's come along through handicaps. He was winning at the likes of Wexford and the Galway Festival last year. Flicker of Hope, who put together a really good sequence of wins last season. He's trained by an up-and-coming guy called Mark Fahey, and he was third in a good handicap at Leopardstown last time at the Dublin Racing Festival, and he won, I think it was a 100 grand handicap he won at Navan earlier on the season as well. He stays very well, and I think he's a horse who could have a bit more to offer as well. So 2 with, as I say, different profiles. He'd be much more the battle-hardened of the 2, but the mare is very talented. Okay,
so I think there might be a bit of rain by the time we get to the back end of the week that are certainly watered, and more, I guess, look at this race and it can be a real war, and it take every yard of it to go and win. Is there a horse in here who you think has at least got perhaps the right minerals to be there? Because some of those that will have approached the Albert Bartlett down the years with bags of talent might not have gone through with it fully, because it's a hard race to win.
Yeah, it is, and I think this race is wide open to a degree, but I find myself drawn back to Henry's mare, I think, with the allowance as well.
The big Westerner.
Yeah. I think she's a model of consistency. And I think with the mare's allowance, I think it's very hard to give that away. And I like what Chad said. Jasmine DeVoe, previous champion, bumper winner. It's a class horse in the race.
Very much so. Willie Mullins' 100th winner at the Cheltenham Festival. Anything to add, or are we happy
Nothing
with
to
that?
add. I agree with everyone on this. The Westerner filly, I just would like her maybe seeing a little bit of soft ground. That's the only thing she won on Limerick in the winter time, and yeah, Jasmine DeVoe's bumper form, and maybe a little bit forgotten about. He get a chance over this trip with his jumping, and he's a classy horse if it all comes together.
Right, race 5, the 4 o'clock, and all eyes, understandably, on Galopin Des Champs, who bids to emulate best mate, the late great, and write himself into thoroughbred immortality by winning a 3rd Cheltenham Gold Cup. He is a remarkable racehorse. I wasn't lucky enough to be at Leopardstown a few weeks ago when he won, but the atmosphere, even through just watching it on a screen, Gary, I'll come to you, was palpable in itself. He's awesome, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's a brilliant horse, Nick, and maybe it's taken a little bit of time for him to become a real favourite with the public, but he's getting the adulation he deserves now, I think, and his Cheltenham record obviously speaks for itself as well. He would be unbeaten were it not for that unfortunate trip, is basically what I'd describe it as, in the novice chase a few years back. And the opposition's falling away, isn't it? I mean, Fact the File doesn't look as though he's going to run. Even the last couple of days, I've heard question marks about whether Corbett's Cross will take his chance. And you look down through it and you're thinking to yourself, what can possibly lay?
It's not a lot of frightening opposition.
No, I mean, Banbridge is the only one, isn't he? The King George winner. You'd have to respect the King George winner taking him on, but he will, I think, need top of the ground, and he's going into the unknown stamina-wise. He did finish the King George well, and it's a no-brainer to go for the race as well. If you've won the King George and you've got a chance in a Gold Cup, you've got to roll the dice. So I hope he runs. I hope the ground comes right for him, and we have a proper race, but he just can't oppose Galopin Des Champs, I don't think.
Katie?
No, I don't think he can oppose Galopin Des Champs. I mean, he's the one horse I think everyone really, really well. I would love to see win more so than any other horse. To be honest, he's just, everyone needs a horse like that. You know what I mean? And I think it's good for racing. And I think he's a beast. And I think it'd be brilliant if he won again. Is there a chance that Gavin Cromwell's horse might be supplemented?
There's a rumour, yeah, I know the way you're thinking might be supplemented, yeah. So that would change things.
Yeah, I know the way you're thinking could change things up. I mean, I thought he ran very well behind his horse the last day. It's probably worth having a look at. And I thought that another horse at a big price is Grangelare West, like finished second to Galopin Des Champs the last day. You know, he's a massive price as well. So if you're looking for, he's 33 to 1, I think, in some places. So, you know.
And the market's without.
Yeah.
I mean, are we looking at this through the eyes that he would, on figures, have to significantly underperform in order for something else to win it? At some point, he's a 9-year-old now, and at some point he's going to have had enough races, enough war wounds and so on that it's not going to be his day. But based on what we've seen this season, it's not anytime soon, is it?
Absolutely not. And the Gold Cup's going to be a lesser race than what the Irish Gold Cup was.
It doesn't look to me that there'd be a Jerry Colombe necessary to frighten me off this year. Banbridge could well run a huge race, but at the same time he's got it to prove. Ross, assuming Galopin Des Champs, who chases him home?
Yeah, you're just looking for a horse to be placed. And if the ground is good, I think Banbridge. To me, Rachel did give Monty Starr a good shout at a preview I was on last week. Little bit kind of, she said she thought he could be chasing home some prize money. So maybe a 1, 2, 3 of Galopin, Banbridge and Monty Starr.
Fantastic. I think it's the only race on the whole programme book that's going to have a clean sweep. So cue Galopin Des Champs getting beat. Hopefully not, because I think the racing public wants to see it. I want to just quickly mention the 440, the St James's Place Festival Challenge Cup Open Hunters Chase, to give it its full title. Ross O'Sullivan.
Yes,
Over to you.
We have a horse called Roy Hill. He won impressively the last day. He's on the 8-1 in the betting at the minute. He is a horse that is kind of going the old-fashioned way up through the ranks from the point-to-point scene. He won his maiden Hunter's Chase, won his point-to-point, won his winner's race, won his maiden Hunter's Chase last year by 17 lengths. Wouldn't like it to dry out too much, but hopefully it won't. Stays very well. It's a wide open Hunter's Chase. The favourite is Angel's Dawn. She is a good filly. We finished second to her on our first run at the start of the year, and she had a run under her belt. She will be favoured. This fella will be probably an each way price, and I'm very happy with my home. So I'm hoping that he could run up and get a place chance.
Have you mentioned the rider? Did I?
Yeah, chap that rides him is he's a chap that works for me. He's won on this horse a couple of times. Good horseman, knows the horse inside out. He's not the most straightforward of rides. He's has an awkward style of jumping that you really have to know.
What's his name, sorry?
His name is Lee Shanahan. Good, wise head on his shoulder, on a young body, young shoulders. Wise head on the young shoulders. He is... he's a horse that I'm very happy with, and I wouldn't swap him in a race for anything.
There are a load of other good races on the Friday, a load of good races on the undercard each and every day as well. They'll finish with the Martin Pipe. You've got the County Hurdle. Casey Walsh alongside knows exactly how to win that race. Aside from the front and centre races, Katie, I'll start with you. What draws you in for the final day?
I can't really, to be honest with you. You'd be better off going to Gary with this. I mean, I just think a County Hurdle is just so wide open, and anything can happen. And I just would not be able to pick one winners, to be honest with you.
Fair? Gary?
I actually think there's a standout in the County Hurdle. If she runs in it now, I don't know whether she's guaranteed to run. She's in
He's
the
rivaling you for the clickbait stuff.
The mare's race as well, but Cargesi, if she runs in the County Hurdle, she obviously had top form last season. She was second in the Triumph to Madgeborough, second to Sir Gino at Aintree, won a Grade 1 at Punchestown at the end of the season. Very tough mare. Only had her first run of the season at Ascot recently and did get beat, but that was over 2.5 miles. She's a real kind of free-going sort, and I think dropping down in distance, she looks on a lovely mark to me. I think if she runs in the county, she'll be carrying my money anyway. And in the mare's chase, Nick, I hope Only by Night runs in this. I think she's the only one that can put it up to the favourite Dino Blue. A little bit of a doubt about her over the distance maybe, but I struggle to see her laying a glove on Madgeborough and the Arkle, and I think this is a race that if she gets the trip, I'd be quite optimistic she will actually as well. She'll make Dino Blue go.
Good stuff. Chad, over to you for the last day.
Where were we? Well, there's a horse running on Saturday in the Imperial Cup called Batman Girac, and if you win that, then go and win at Cheltenham. There's a £100,000 bonus. So that's Willie Mullins has entered him in that, and then the county. So if he wins on Saturday, I'd keep him on the side. He's a massive price as it stands, because 100k bonus is not to be sniffed at. But Karjeezy is graded level, whereas running a handicap, not to use the old saying that kind of gets thrown around. And in the Mares chase, I looked at twice, 3 times, 4 times. It kept coming back to the fact that Limerick Lace might not have been in the same form this season as she was last year, but she's a stonking price at 8-1 to run. If she runs anything like she does last year, she's to the level of form she showed throughout the whole season last year. She's just as good as all of these.
Okay, Ross, you kindly shared your thoughts on the Fox Hunters. So, just any other business on the day?
I suppose keep an eye on the Martin Pipe. Jockey is very, very important in this race. I think Gordon has 6 in it, but there's a jockey that Danny Gilligan, that's an up and coming rider in Ireland, top class jockey. But he's actually ridden out his claim in Ireland, but he's still eligible to ride in this race. So whatever one he rides of Gordon Elliott's in the Martin Pipe, I would say he just has loads of experience.
I think he rides Would Do. Yeah.
And like, she has a great chance.
Yeah.
She's probably been laid out for this race for the year. And for me, what price she, Chad?
I'm looking at the price of racing.
Chad's on Wolverhampton.
5-1. I think. Well, winner of Wolverhampton pays the same as the winner of Cheltenham, Ross.
Yeah, how many cliches are we going to tick off in one day? We love it. Okay, last bits. We want the nap of the day from the panel, starting with Chad for the Friday, the 4th and final day. We've got through it.
Oh, it's going to have to be Galop and Deshaun. It's really original, but it has to be because if he jumps around, he wins.
Ross?
Galop and Champ again. Yeah, sorry about that. Now it's not very original, but I think he can't get beat.
Okay.
Gallop in the Champ.
Okay.
Just to break
Gary,
the monotony, Nick, I'll go Cargazy in the county hurdle if she runs in it, and if she doesn't, only by night in the Mares chase.
Right, so we've got to the end of the week, and it is now time. We're going to start with Chad and go round the panel for the nap of the entire Cheltenham Festival.
Jay de Grugy, Lecky Watson. That's Jay de Grugy.
Jay de Grugy. And which day is that again?
That is in the Mares on Tuesday when she wins.
Absolutely. Bleak week after that if it doesn't.
Yeah. No, it will.
It will. She will. Ross.
Gavin Cromwell's mare in 6.5 in the Mares race. She's favourite, but she's the one for me.
And your nap of the week, Katie Walsh, 3-time winning Cheltenham Festival rider.
I'm going to go for Brighter Days Ahead.
Okay. To beat Constitution Hill.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff, this. It's fighting talk already. And that's what this should be about as well, given the fact that the Cheltenham Festival is the Olympics of the sport. You don't want 2 to 5 shots dotting up, do you? You want to have the competition, and I guess her presence in that race creates just that.
It's the race of the week, I think.
Okay. Gary.
Nap of the week would be, I think, Cargazy in the county, and maybe next best, Stumptown.
Right, as well as looking at the naps, we want the long shots on the week as well, be they in handicap company, be they in the graded races. Chad, we'll start with you.
I will go with Eagle Fang if that runs in the Coral Cup.
Eagle Fang.
Not really a long shot, but he has a bit of value, and he's trained by a good friend of ours, myself and Katie's. Win some, lose some in the Pertemps, Porrick Roach. He's already trained the festival winner 2 years ago, and this horse has been laid out for it.
Fantastic. There you go. And the inside track as well. Katie, long shot on the week.
Gold Tweet in the Ultima.
Okay. Nice.
French horse.
Yeah. And Gary.
I think the best long shot is Flicker of Hope in the Albert Bartlett. He's about 14-16-1.
And what about you, Nick? We've got to ask you. So for your long shot...
Nap of the week.
Your nap of the week.
Nap of the week is Dancing City to beat Ballyburn. No? Not having
Go again.
We haven't had a boo from the audience all evening. Fair play.
And long shot, and she is that because she's a double-digit price. She's trained by Lucy Wadham, and her name's Telepathique to win the Mares Chase, which is, by the way, not a race that I'm overly enamoured with. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have it as my sort of programme book or in my programme book for the Cheltenham Festival. But if Telepathique wins it, then I think it's the best race in the calendar. Right, that's it from our preview, the Betway Cheltenham Festival preview. We've got Chad Yeomans, Ross O'Sullivan, Katie Walsh, Gary O'Brien, all to thank. Gary, since you've been going to the Cheltenham Festival, I just want to finish with this. How much of a... it's a pilgrimage for so many people. I know that you have it as a working capacity as well, but do you get into routine, ritual almost, i.e. stay at the same place, go through the same processes each and every year?
Definitely don't stay in the same place. I actually didn't have anywhere to stay until about two days ago, Nick.
Right.
So that's the first winner of the festival. Banked away.
Well done getting the
Didn't
late...
really
yeah.
fancy sleeping rough for 4 nights. Routine-wise, yeah, I'd watch a lot of the races in the same race. I know a lot of people like to watch them on the big screen by the parade room, but I think there's nothing like watching them out the front. When you hear someone like Willie Mullen say he always prefers to watch them through the binoculars, it's a good point he makes. You only get one chance to see the race live. You'll always get a chance to watch it back on the replay any number of times afterwards. And there's also that atmosphere. The atmosphere out the front just beats all, I think. So that'll be a ritual that I'll try and stick to over the 4 days as well. And hopefully I'll try and back a few winners over the 4 days as well, which gets harder and harder as the years go by.
Isn't it just? Katie, you were saying that each and every year since '97, of course, we didn't have the foot and mouth year, and I know COVID proved its issues, but I guess given the opportunity, you've been there with bells on, haven't you? It's been quite special.
Oh yeah, brilliant. So there's nowhere like it. I mean, it is. Everyone says it is the Olympics of our sport, and you know it's where you want to be, and just the atmosphere alone is unbelievable. So yeah, I can't wait. It's exhausting, without doubt, in every sense of it. But it is. You get your steps in for sure. But
What's been the best day for you?
how do you mean?
Well, 3 winning rides, but obviously family success as well.
Yeah, we're sure we've been blessed. You know, I mean, I never thought I'd ride a winner there. So to ride a winner there was unbelievable. Never mind ride 2 more. You know, and we had so much. You know, so many good days watching Ruby, and so many not so good days watching Ruby. You know, and then you know, for Dad to have a couple of winners there. You know, we've been very, very lucky. It's been a great place for us.
Ross, final note from you. You've got a couple of live chances on the week. There are huge festivals here, there, and everywhere, and you train horses to go and run all around the world. But Cheltenham, would it take you to the next level? Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've been going to Cheltenham as a racing fan for the last 20 years. First time I ever went was my grandfather brought me to see Seymour Business win the Gold Cup, and he passed away this year. Actually, and he'd love to see something happen again. So there's loads of stories. That's a great thing about Cheltenham, and going here this year with a horse that, like last year, a horse to pop up and finish second was very special. To arrive on this year with 2 horses that hopefully you're going there that they'll run respectable. You never know what can happen, and hopefully you can make some good memories.
We wish you well. And Chad, are you going to put some socks on for Cheltenham? Anyway, that is it from our Betway Cheltenham Festival preview. Thanks to Chad, thanks to Ross, Katie, Gary. Thanks to all who came here as well, to the Hippodrome in Leicester Square to watch on and give feedback as well. We wish you the very best Cheltenham Festival. Enjoy each and every day. If you're going, great. If you're watching on TV, is great as well. Have a great few days and enjoy every moment. It should be very special.